Welcome back to my channel. This is VitruvianQA. Thank you for stopping by. So, backed by extremely popular demand, I have decided to diet plan. The full macronutrient, cardio, micronutrient, pretty much everything that goes into my mouth for this, diet plan for the next 20-ish weeks of my life. I want to lay out and give you guys a little bit of, just some background information, because so many of you guys have asked me to, go into this detail because they want to say, like, I'm doing a diet, so how are you doing it, so I can compare and contrast and, learn from you.
Also, if anyone's wondering who is this guy and what gives him the right to lecture about fat loss?
Okay, two things that I want to mention right off the bat. Number one, there are so many topics. As you can tell, the green are categories and the blue are subcategories. And some of them are pretty big, like protein, for example. I could talk a whole video just about that. In fact, I have done it and I probably will in the past. So I'm going to do my best to touch upon these. I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing, maybe why I'm doing it, but I'm not going to go into the complexities of this. If you guys want to see that, comment down below and I may go into a full video. I want to do a video on all of these things, but the purpose of this video is just, what am I doing it, why, that's it, move on. Number two, this is my diet. This is not necessarily a video on how to set up a diet. Again, that is something that would take a lot longer and I want to do it in a different format. This is just what I'm doing, and I want to make that very clear because even if you have the same stats as me, you're 100, right now I'm like 191, 6 foot tall guy, you may not be able to have the exact same calories, macros, everything as me because every individual is different. For example, a great way to visualize this is Brian Turner, a good friend of mine. When we did YouTube House together, we talked about how he was approaching his cut soon, and we're very similar. Like he started his cut, he was like 6'1", 210, 212. I was 6 feet, 205, so he's a bit bigger than me. But like, I had to start my cut on like 2,400 calories, whereas he's like, I'm starting on like, it was like something in the 3,000s because we have such different metabolisms. That's why he can go through 10 Chipotle burritos in one day and I get full off of one. Every individual is different. Just today on my Instagram, I had some guy say like, oh man, you're cutting on 2,300? I wish I could do that. Versus another guy said like, dude, you're cutting on 2,300? How are you not a skeleton? I cut on like 3,800, even though both those individuals were roughly the same size as me. So that, guys, this is why it is so important to understand how to do this as opposed to just like, I'm gonna steal this guy's macros, because what works for him may not only, does it not work for you, but it may be like a catastrophe. That is why it is so important to like figure these things out, which is why I do the whole online coaching thing, because I work with individuals to give them customized approaches as opposed to just like, here, do this, okay, done. Like, that doesn't work. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. So starting with the most important thing, target macronutrients. So I started my diet about a month ago. We are about 4 weeks in. I started at 6 feet tall, 205 pounds. Body fat percentage, I don't know. I was not lean, I was kind of fluffy. Either way, these are my initial macronutrients. I started at 210 grams of protein, 55 grams of fat, 275 grams of carbohydrates, which totals to 240 calories. It's like
What? 240 calories?
2,400 calories, thank you. It totals like 2,438 or something, but just a rough estimate would be about 2,400, give or take. So the reason why I do this is because when you are cutting, you need a little bit more protein than you do when you are bulking. I've done a video before where I talked about how the ideal protein intake for a regular athlete who is training, who is, I guess, in a caloric surplus, is about 0.8 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight. This goes a little up. For example, I started cutting, like I said, 205, maybe, quickly getting down to the 200s, but I started on 210. There's a couple reasons for why you want to go a little bit higher when you are cutting versus bulking. One of those is simply satiation. Satiation, there you go. I'm so ESL. So,
Oh, you admitted it.
So protein is a little bit more filling, so when you're trying to eat less food in general, I mean, we can all eat all the, the junk food and the candy in the world, but if you eat chicken breast, it's pretty easy to fill up on it, steak, all these, good things. Protein in general is a little bit more filling as a macronutrient. In addition, when you are cutting and you are in a caloric deficit, your body is more prone to using amino acids or protein for energy purposes. In fact, don't quote me on this, but I think in the Muscle and Strength Pyramid by Eric Helms, they said it was like up to 10% So think about it, you're consuming 200 grams of protein, 10% of that up to may go towards energy, which means you're only getting 180, which means you have to overcompensate a little bit for that to actually, get sufficient protein. That is why I increased it just a little bit towards the 210 mark in the beginning. Fat is at 55 grams. I like to keep my fat as low as possible so I could partition more calories towards carbohydrates. The reason for this is I want to maximize gym performance. The worst thing is when you start feeling like crap in the gym, you get that low carb feeling when you're slugging around, you just feel like death, and your performance goes down, your strength goes down. And I really think that a big factor to this is carbohydrates. So pretty much once you figure out your protein, depending on how many calories you have left within your target, you have to decide whether it's going to go into fat or carbs. I put as much as I can into carbohydrates to preserve gym performance, but you can't minimize fat completely. You can't just have zero. Fat is absolutely essential for just healthy bodily functions. For example, testosterone is synthesized from cholesterol, which is a derivative of fat. No fat, no testosterone. Congratulations, gains are done. So you need a minimum. There's actually, I believe it is 0.25 grams per pound of body weight. So me starting at about 200, 205 pounds, the minimum fat intake that I should be intaking is 50 grams. I took 55, just a little bit over, just to, I guess, be safe. And it's just easier for me because some of the foods I eat, especially when I go out, there is fat in there. So for you to get less than 50, number one, it's not healthy, and number two, it's just too high. So fat 55, carbs 275, calories about 2400, 2430, around there. That is it. But I'm about a month in, and one of the things you guys are going to have to understand is that you are going to encounter fat loss plateaus. There's a couple of reasons as to why this happens. I'm going to get to that later in the video, but you have to, work around these things. And for me, usually my go-to move is I will decrease in the beginning a little bit of fat if I have room to decrease it, and some carbs. And I usually don't take away from protein until later into the cut when your body starts shrinking, because again, protein is based on your grams per pound of body weight. As your body weight comes down, you can decrease protein a little bit, but it's too early for that. So what I've actually done is I have already, about literally 6 days ago, because again, I'm a month into my cut, my fat loss was great in the beginning, start to slow down, and I want to ramp it up a little bit because I have a goal that I want to hit this year. I took this down to 2,300, and I did that by taking all the calories out of carbs. I took this down to 250. So 25 grams of carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, 25 times 4, 100 calories, 2,400 down to 2,300. There it is. So that is my initial kind of adjustment. And this is what you guys have to understand. You can't just take your macros and do them forever. What worked for you last month may no longer work for you this month. This is what I hope us coaches do. We are constantly reevaluating, monitoring our clients' weight to see everything's working. If it is, great, keep it up. If something is broken, we have to fix it. We have to do stuff like this, take it out of carbs, potentially take it out of fat, whatever you have to do. Sometimes even out of protein. So that is my macros. This is an example of a little dietary modification that I have already done. So there we go. Guys, to be honest, macros, that's 80% of the diet. Everything else is fun. Number 2, cardio. This is something which, as we know, cardio pretty much acts as negative calories. So if you want to eat a little bit more over your caloric target, you can, as long as you burn them off via negative calories. All that matters at the end of the day is your net calories, so your calorie expenditure subtracted from your calorie ingestion. So if I want 2,300, I eat 2,500, I do 200 calories worth of cardio, congratulations, I hit 2,300, life is okay. In fact, sometimes it's even better to do so to just increase activity while eating more. There's this whole concept of G-flux where your body's actually going to be better functioning and better just in terms of composition if you just increase activity versus you're a slob but you eat very little, but that's a whole other video. So when it comes to cardio, guys, you have 2 options, and then under that you also have 2 options. There's subcategories. So number 1 is, do you want to do ad hoc or prescribed cardio? Ad hoc meaning that you do cardio whenever you want. If your calories are perfect today and you're going to sleep and it's 11 o'clock and you hit your calorie target, fine, you're good. You don't need to do any additional cardio because that would put you even further below your target, not necessarily required. Pretty much it just means go nuts, have fun, do whatever you want. You want to do cardio today, you don't want to do cardio, you may have a general goal like 3 to 4 times a week, to, this kind of cardio, that kind of cardio, but it's ad hoc. It's like, do whatever you want, and that's what I follow right now. In some ways this is good because I'm very flexible. I can do cardio whenever I want. It's not like required. I'm not like, oh God, I gotta do cardio tonight. I don't gotta do it as long as I ate properly. A problem with this is that sometimes when you don't eat properly, you're not going to realize this until it's too late. There have been plenty of times when I've been with my girlfriend and it's 12 o'clock, we're going to sleep on a Saturday, and I'm like, sorry babe, I ate too much today. I was at like 2,600 because we had like sushi or something, so I have to go do cardio. I kind of messed up, and had I done this prescribed, I would have been able to do this at a reasonable hour instead of running around Toronto at midnight trying not to get stabbed. The other option is prescribed. It's good for people who like a really strict regimen to their diet and nutrition protocol, but it's kind of annoying because, like I said, I don't want to live life by this requirements. Okay, so then your 2 subcategories are LISS or HIIT. So low intensity, steady state, I believe that's the term. So like very low intensity cardio. We're talking, usually they say a cardio that you can perform while you have a conversation. So your heart rate's probably not even breaking 100. You have to do a lot of this versus HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. This is like, you might sprint for 30 seconds and then just walk for 60 seconds, let your heart rate come back down. And it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I would love to do a lot of HIIT, but it's very difficult. Partly because I want to start doing sprint training on the track this year, but it's not always open, so I'm just going to have to do a split. This is very simple because I can go on the treadmill. I actually sometimes do stairs in my apartment. I just go up to the 24th floor, come back down, go, keep pretty much like natural Stairmaster. So this is just a lot more convenient. This is fun. Realistically, is there a better option?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
What about Miss? Also, why does it say 70% for LISS?
Because okay, we'll get to that.
But there's also medium, because actually I know a lot of trainers actually prefer
There's medium intensity cardio. Medium intensity cardio would be exactly what it sounds like. HIIT is going to absolutely kill you. You can't do HIIT like an interval for more than 30 to 60 seconds. Good luck sprinting for 60 seconds, you're going to be dead. Versus LISS is like, hi, okay, so what was up? What happened last night on Daredevil? Oh my God, no. Medium would be something in between. That's just let's say you go for a 20-minute jog. You're never stopping, but at the same time, you're not doing 30 seconds of it. This one is kind of controversial. Some people say that that's the bad cardio because HIIT and LISS will kind of preserve muscle more so than medium intensity. And they say if you do medium intensity, you want to limit it to a certain amount per week. I don't want to get too much into that because it is kind of pseudo bro science. I actually do enjoy medium intensity cardio. I do like to go for jogs around the city. I don't like to I don't do power walks. I don't do this kind of elliptical bullshit, and I can't do HIIT all the time. So I do incorporate some medium intensity cardio, and I think that's where people are like, cardio kills gains, but to be honest, I think it's overplayed. I don't think it's going to be a tangible, significant problem. Okay, so the last thing I'll mention is 70 and 30%. This is just a split through how much cardio I anticipate to be doing. I'll probably be doing LISS more so throughout the week, and then HIIT 30% again because I don't always have access to a track. Ideally it would be 100%, but gotta be realistic. Okay guys, so diet type. This one is, it's kind of a general concept, but nonetheless I think it's very, important, something I should go into. So you have a couple options. Number one is simply if it fits your macros. This is the whole concept of, flexible dieting. This is something which became very popular in recent years, and for good reason because, let's be honest, it really works. So this is the whole notion that you can eat whatever you want in terms of food sources as long as you're, within your caloric or macronutrient requirements. So theoretically, you can go eat nachos, Sprite, Big Macs, and if you somehow magically get that all to fit into your macronutrients, it's fine. It's this whole concept of, is a carb really a carb? Does it matter? Is a carbohydrate from fruits and oatmeal the same as a carbohydrate gram from Coca-Cola? And
Q fights in the comments.
Yeah, seriously. So this notion believes that is kind of the case. Obviously, I don't recommend going eating junk food all day, but if you follow this kind of lifestyle and this kind of dieting notion, then theoretically you could. Then you have clean eating, or some people call it bro dieting. This is what people did 10 years ago when they thought bro, it's not about the numbers and all this stuff. It's just about chicken breast, brown rice, and broccoli. Drink your water and that's it. And that technically worked because inadvertently, even though you are clean eating and you're not counting anything, you're going to end up eating so little calories because those foods are so calorically just low in density. So I mean, if you guys ever tried eating brown rice, chicken breast, broccoli, like you would have to eat like an exuberant amount of that to actually get into a caloric surplus. That's why the whole concept of like super clean, bulking on clean foods is very difficult because nobody wants to sit there and eat brown rice all day. Then you have what I do and what I think everyone does or should do and I recommend, which is a hybrid of the two. So follow If It Fits Your Macros. Track your macros. Macros get you shredded. End of story. This is not something that's like up for debate. That's how it works. But at the same time, if you eat junk food all day, it's not going to work because most junk food, most crap food is A, very calorically dense, which is going to make you go over your caloric targets, and B, it's very poor in its macronutrient ratios. Go look up a pizza. It's 2,000 calories, which pretty much maxes you out for the day. It's like 50 grams of fat minimum, which maxes out your fat. It's all carbs, and then there's like maybe like 60 grams of protein per the whole thing. Congratulations, maxed it out, maxed it out, maxed it out, nothing there, nothing left. And you know, you're screwed. So in that case, you have to do a combination of both. So go, like the other day, you know, you can have muffins, you can go out to eat, you know, I have like, you know, Chipotle or whatever you want, because as long as it fits this, it's okay. But, you know, if you're sitting at home, you don't have to eat out all your meals. It gets expensive, it's useless, you're essentially paying someone to potentially screw up your diet. So I do a hybrid. Live your life, eat whatever fits your macros, but at the same time, you know, don't be, you know, you should have a little bit of willpower, a little bit of resilience, and actually, you know, sometimes bring a lunch to work, sometimes, you know, eat good foods, and we're going to talk, there's a couple of reasons as to why this is better and, you know, what other problems with junk food. So, moving on, other info. This is pretty much everything else. Like, this main, you know, categories are great. There's a lot of very important things that can go into it, and I give question marks around all these because some of them I'm going to incorporate and some of them I'm not, and I'll tell you guys why. So, number one, this is probably the most requested video I'm going to, you know, I have, and I will do a full video on this, I promise, but intermittent fasting. So, this is the whole concept of, you know, you consuming all of your calories and macronutrients throughout the day, the exact same as if you were eating normally, but you eat it within a time window. So, a lot of people do 6 or 8 hours. And for me, the answer is yes, I actually do intermittent fasting currently. I've been doing it throughout this prep and I really do enjoy it. Mostly from a convenience factor because I work 9 to 5. It's very easy for me to wake up in the morning, skip breakfast, come into work, I'm doing meetings, I've got this, I've got that, I've got like emails to answer, and then finally when I'm like, oh crap, I'm hungry, it's like 11:30 and you know, I can go eat lunch. And the biggest thing for me is simply convenience because if you are not as hungry in the mornings, why would you eat? You're going to be starving later because you're eating so little because you're on a diet, the whole issue is with hunger. So why not save your calories for when you actually really want them and need them as opposed to earlier? For some people, this is not the case. That's why when people say like, intermittent fasting, amazing, and everyone should do it. No, every individual is different. For example, my girlfriend, she wakes up and like 20 minutes in, after she's brushing her teeth, she's starving. If she doesn't eat something within an hour, you know, it's very difficult for her at times to function. And you know, she has been trying it, and I think that maybe she can get used to it. You have to take some time kind of to acclimate your body. Lots of times it's very difficult for the first week, but after a while you kind of, you know, get into it. But you know, some individuals, everyone's different. Some people like it, some people absolutely hate it. So I am giving it a shot. I enjoy it. It works very well for me because I have a 9 to 5 job. So people in school, people working, you know, why not? Next up, meal timing. This is that whole notion that like, you know, the space between your meals or the time of day that you consume your meals is important. And this one is, oh yeah, by the way, so this is a yes, and this one is a big fat no. I do not care about this. Neither should you. If your macros are good and everything else is good, literally calories, macros, even micronutrients are more important than this. Even supplements for gut. Like, I don't care about this. Some people say like, oh, it's bad to eat after 6 p.m. because, you know, the carbs are going to be in your stomach when you go to sleep. And that's going to, no, that's bullshit. It doesn't matter. You can eat one meal. You could eat 12 meals.
I can eat 12 times a day.
Space them out 2 hours. It doesn't make a difference. You can consume all your calories, you know, at night. You can consume all your calories, you know, like if you're doing intermittent fasting and you do 6 hours in the morning, like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., it doesn't matter. This is not going to make a difference. Calories in, calories out, macros in, macros out. What time of day and how often you eat your food, your body doesn't care. It operates on a 24-hour cycle. Don't think you can trick your body into eating specific things. It doesn't work like that. Carb cycling. So this is the concept of not eating the exact same macros every single day. So maybe you may go, let's say if I'm eating 250 carbs, I may have low carb days when I have like 200 or 150, and then high carb days where I kind of do the inverse, have 300 or 350. It nets out over the week to the same amount of carbohydrates, as if I were eating 250 every single day, but you may have high and low carb days. There's a lot of bro science that goes into this. Like some people think it's like tricking the body. There are some, you know, reasonable facts behind this. For example, like Some people like to increase their carbohydrates on days that they are having big, heavy workouts because that's going to increase your insulin response. Insulin being an anabolic hormone is going to increase that protein synthesis. You need that on workout days, so they keep their carbs high on workout days, carbs low on off days. That's, a reasonable strategy. I am not doing this yet because I don't feel that it's something that I require. I keep my carbs pretty much essentially the same. Lots of times on my rest days I'll do cardio, or I might just do abs or something. So I don't really have like pure rest days yet. So I'm saying no, but I'm not, throwing it off the table. This is something that I may incorporate later into my my cut, perhaps like months 3 or 4. So, training change. This video is only talking about diet and what I'm eating and consuming, so I'm not going to go too much into training changes, but there is a bit of a change. Essentially, I am no longer powerlifting. I am back to bodybuilding and loving it, and I can go as heavy. It's a little bit more dangerous now because my strength isn't there. So last month you were bulking on 500 grams of carbs, squatting 315. This month you're trying to squat 315 for the same amount of reps, but you're consuming half as many carbs. And you're wondering like, why can't I do it? That's why you can't do it. So it may get a little bit dangerous because you may push your body, past where it's able to go and injure yourself. And I know people say like, push yourself, push it to the limit. Push it to the limit. Walk along the razor's edge, but don't look down, just keep your head or you'll be finished. Open up the limit. Past the point of no return. Reach the top, but there are reasonable limitations to your body. Life isn't an animal pack commercial where it's just like beast mode all the time. Sometimes you have to be smart, understand your limitations, and understand that if you put as much effort as you can into your muscles and tendons, eventually they're not gonna you wake up and lift 600 pounds. Eventually they're just gonna snap. So I am doing a little bit less in terms of volume, more in terms of frequency, which is what I mentioned in my training volume versus frequency video here. And just less weight in general, more bodybuilding style, less powerlifting. That's pretty much it. I'm going to go into a full video on terms of my split, in terms of what I'm doing in training in a later video, but know for now that there is a bit of a training change. So fiber, is there something specific I'm doing with fiber? Well, realistically, my fiber is the same whether I'm cutting or bulking. I think fiber just definitely helps a little bit more when you are cutting for health purposes, for gastrointestinal health, and just for example, fiber isn't actually the same as carbohydrates. Even though fiber falls under carbohydrates, it's not metabolized the same way as your body. That's why Quest bars, for example, have high fiber intakes. So their carbs might be 20 grams, but their net carbs, once you factor out fiber, is only like 10 or something, because I believe each gram of fiber is actually 2 calories worth of usable energy, as opposed to regular carbohydrates, which are 4 calories worth. So that's a little point. So point is, yes, I regulate my fiber. I try to get at least about 35, 38 grams of fiber per day. Fruits and vegetables really help me. Quest bars are an example of something that helps. So the answer to that is yes, specifically 35 to 40 grams on the daily, just for general health. So micronutrients, this is something that plays into all of this. So when it comes to if it fits your macros, that's great. You can eat whatever the hell you want. But if you're eating food which is completely devoid of all micronutrients, it's going to be poor for your health. It's going to be poor for your gym performance. By the way, guys, micronutrients are simply vitamins and minerals. We're talking zinc, vitamin A, vitamin C, all of these things. So that's why when it comes to if it fits your macros, it may not be the best choice in terms of overall diet and in terms of overall health. That's why I like the idea of a hybrid. Have some fun, but at the same time, don't neglect your fruits, your vegetables, your salads, all that good stuff. So yes, I am eating, a combination of junk and clean food. When I say junk, I mean, guys, it's not like junk, but I may have Chipotle or burritos. I'm not going out and eating pizza and McDonald's and all that crap. Another really important thing is, for those who are doing clean eating and you think, I'm so clean because I eat the same 4 or 5 foods over and over again and they're so clean, maybe I'm eating spinach and broccoli. That's fine, but in some ways that's actually worse than junk food, because you may be getting so many micronutrients but just from one type. You need a variety. That's why in some ways it's better to do this hybrid, because you have a variety of foods, in which case you're going to get a whole spectrum of micronutrients. Okay guys, next topic, refeeds and or diet breaks. Will I be doing them? The answer simply is yes, but not yet. And when I do refeeds, I talk about calculated increases in carbohydrates but it's calculated, it's limited, it's like, it's not a friggin' cheat meal. I've seen so many photos of people online and in social media when they're like bodybuilding or something, and they're like, yeah, Sunday cheat meal, and they've got like these 17 pizzas in front of them and they're going hard. I do not believe in that. That is not the best for you in terms of health, and you could, do some damage to your diet in that sense. What I believe in is increasing your carbohydrates, perhaps decreasing your fat on that one day, perhaps even lower than your minimum intake. And this helps for a number of reasons. Number one, it just keeps you sane. It helps increase your glycogen, which will, perhaps increase in performance for a short period of time. It's something. There's, this whole thing about like the leptin hormone. It kind of resets your metabolism or something. I'm not going to go into too much of detail about this. For me to make a whole video about this, I need a little bit more research. Diet breaks is kind of like a longer term refeed. Essentially, what I would do is maybe like 2 months into my diet, I would take like 7 to 10 days off, and I would just go back up to maintenance. So I would keep protein the same, keep fat the same, increase my carbohydrates. If they were at 250, maybe I'd take them up to like 350, just for a short period of time. My girlfriend actually did this recently and she loved it. Not only did she feel a lot better in terms of mentally and in terms of physically, in terms of her performance in the gym, she actually maintained and on some days lost weight throughout her refeed. It's almost as if her metabolism like woke up or something. I mean, it's a weird thing, but it's awesome, it works. And this just shows you guys that sometimes when you're like stuck in a rut, maybe you're hitting a plateau, the answer isn't always just like drop your carbs, drop your calories, just keep pounding away until you're at like, you're consuming like 400 calories a day and you're pretty much in starvation mode. Sometimes you have to do interesting things, especially when you are doing a contest prep. Contest preps are not the same thing as regular diets. If you're just trying to get a little bit of, like lose some belly fat, maybe get a little bit of a six pack, that's okay. But when it comes to getting like literally single digit body fat percentage shredded, it's a whole other beast. So refeeds and diet breaks, I'm gonna leave it as like a question mark because not yet, but this is something I'll be looking forward to into the future. I don't think it's necessary for me yet because I'm only dieting for like 4 weeks. If you have to start looking into refeeds and diet breaks that early into a cut, you're doing something wrong, or maybe you just have zero willpower. Water/sodium. I've had some people message me really dangerous things. There's this one guy, he asked me, he's like, hey man, I want to like lose water weight or something. And how much water should I cut out? I've been trying to limit myself to like 1 liter a day. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're trying to kill yourself. This is the worst thing you can do, guys. Your body is made to run on water. It is made up of water. Your muscles are like 76, 75% water. No water, nothing. You're gonna get dehydrated. It's very problematic. Do not do this. I think the only reason people do this is because, like, when you watch bodybuilding shows, sometimes the judges are kind of like, oh, like he's holding a little bit of water in his lower back. He's gonna lose a couple of points for that. That is bullshit. That is for people who may be like on pounds of steroids because anabolic steroids, performance-enhancing drugs, they kind of deal with that. Like water retention is a big side effect of certain hormones, certain drugs such as Dianabol. So they have to deal with all that crazy shit. If you're watching this and you're a natural competitor, and I hope you're natural because this is all completely different for someone who is not natural. Again, not judging, but it's just two different things. It's two different sports. So when it comes to water and sodium, do not worry about this shit. Don't cut your water, don't cut your sodium. Obviously, don't eat like crazy salty things because that's just bad for your health in general. But don't worry about this. This is ridiculous. This is not related to like, long-term diet goals. This is related to health. I actually have a friend who thought that sodium is so bad for you, and he thought that it's true. Sodium does, increase sodium. It's going to increase water retention, but that's like literally varies on a day-to-day basis. Do not worry about this stuff, guys. Take this out of your mind. Unless you're like some crazy competitive bodybuilder / men's physique athlete and maybe you're on steroids, this shouldn't, 99% of the people who watch this video should not be affected by this. But yeah, my friend, he cut his sodium intake to like 1,000 milligrams a day, and he started having significant issues with cramping. Like all of his muscles were cramping up, and it's happening so much. And then he's like, I don't know why this happens to me. I asked him, how much sodium are you taking? 1,000 milligrams is less than half of the recommended daily intake for an adult male of his age. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Start drinking, start eating regular sodium like a human being. So guys, this is just a big no. The only time a natural competitor should really, maybe if they want to start to think about water/sodium manipulation and depletion is if you are competing in a bodybuilding or men's physique or bikini or whatever show, and you are in your last week, that's what's called the peak week, then there is some stuff that you can do towards that. But even then, it's kind of optional, and it's not something I recommend unless you really know what you're doing, you're working with a coach who knows what they're doing, or maybe you've been competing and this is like your third, fourth competition. If you're a first-time noob competing by yourself without any guidance, it's a little risky. Let me put it this way, guys. If any of you ever say, oh, you know, like, I'm 2 weeks out from a show, but, you know, like, I got a little bit of water weight to lose. It's not water weight, you're just fat.
Brutal.
Supplements. Guys, there is a big reason why supplements is in the corner at the bottom, because in terms of importance, it's pretty much last on the docket, it's last on the list. I'm not saying that supplements are completely bullshit and that none of you should be using them, because they can be helpful. I use them. I'm sponsored by a supplement company. I use several supplements. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, if you cut all of these out, you can still do, you know, have a great weight loss journey. You can still make gains. It is 100% optional. And unfortunately, a lot of the supplements are not even optional. They're just straight up useless. So here's a supplement which I will be using or have been using in my diet. Supplement number 1, protein powder. Simple, why not? For me to get 210 grams of protein is very difficult, so sometimes I will incorporate protein. I usually just take like, not an isolate because that's a little, it's not necessary. If you have problems with like, you know, dairy, or if you want something which is 100% no carbohydrates, sure, go for an isolate. I use My Proteins. I think it's like Impact Whey. It's their standard one. It's pretty cheap. I like it. That is the one I use. I'll probably have 1 to 2 scoops per day. Sometimes I use other protein supplements such as like, you know, protein bars, protein cookies, just all these high protein foods. The reason I do this is simply convenience, because I can't hit 210 grams without something helping me, and because these foods are great for dieting because they're usually very high in protein and very low in other macronutrients. So protein supplements, yeah, why not? I use it when I'm bulking, I use it when I'm cutting. They are totally helpful. Creatine, so yes, creatine straight up, yeah, there's no reason why I would ever go off creatine. When you are cutting, when you're bulking, it's helpful. The whole concept of like creatine bloat is kind of bullshit. It's completely fine. I used creatine during, up until, and after my show, so there's nothing wrong with creatine, especially when you're cutting, because maybe you want that extra little boost of energy in terms of endurance and strength. So, fish oils. I have been usually taking fish oils. Usually I take like 3 to 4 grams per day. This one's not even bodybuilding related. This is just more health related. There's like, fish oil is one of those things that is just universally accepted as being good for you. There's so many cognitive functions. There's so many, you know, it helps with your blood pressure. There's 100 different things. But the problem is fish oil technically is still oil. It's technically still fat. And me trying to keep my fat a little bit low, this has become kind of problematic. So I cut it down from 3 to 4. I usually now only take 1 per day. I know some of you may be saying like, what does it matter? It's 3 to 4 grams. Well, yeah, when you're only consuming 55 grams, you need to make every gram of fat count. So some days I only have 1 gram of fish oil per day, and that's pretty much it. So the answer is yes, but only 1. Okay, fat burners. I don't use this bullshit. End of story. Next, caffeine. This would be the only fat burner that I may use up here. Caffeine is included in stimulants. It's a very common ingredient used in pre-workout powders. Caffeine is a very common ingredient in fat burners. So I only use it, I don't go for the general fat burners because they're usually A, ineffective, B, like expensive. Like some of them are like 60 bucks. What? Just to get your heart rate up and to feel really anxious and start sweating, but it's not really going to help you burn fat. In fact, I think it's actually going to be counterproductive because a lot of people will take fat burners, think like, oh, I'm on a fat burner, which means my metabolism is up so I can eat a little bit more. They end up burning an extra 5 calories for the whole day because of their friggin' fat burner. They end up going and eating over their calories by 300. Congratulations, you're in a caloric surplus. You screwed up, and the reason you did is because you thought that magic fat burners are going to get rid of hard work. Guess what? Nothing replaces hard work, macronutrients, calories. So caffeine is the only one that I use, and I pretty much only use it for pre-workout purposes or just as an appetite suppressant in coordination with intermittent fasting. Caffeine really does help me in the mornings. If I'm waking up and I'm kind of hungry by 10 a.m., I have a cup of coffee, suddenly hunger's gone. I could last until 12 or 1 p.m. So caffeine is yes. BCAAs, no, I'm not using them. I know some people say that BCAAs can help when you're cutting. I don't believe in that. I have not seen any science. It's kind of iffy. And I get free supplements from My Protein, and I'm still not going to just receive BCAA. So if I'm not getting it for free, guys, I don't really see the point in you guys spending money on it. Again, branched chain amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. You're getting it anyway, so why dish out additional money on it? Some people have actually messaged me and they say like, well, I like BCAAs because you can get, your amino acids, but it's lower in calories, and if you're cutting, you want to minimize your calories. Not from protein. I mean, come on. I'm usually struggling to get enough protein anyway, so why would you say no? Like, oh no, there's too many calories. Yeah, calories from protein. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So guys, that is my plan, but we're not done yet. Let's move on to part 2.